Okay, so going back to these, what I did was absolutely right, and it does work with experience. You know, this is what y'all are going to start learning, but you haven't learned it yet. And if you can do what I do, then you're one step ahead. Now, what I did before on 4-3 was find your critical points, you know, from setting it equal to 0, and then testing points like if it were like -0.5 in this one, then this would be a positive answer because you get a negative times a negative. I guess you can see here is where I tested my points. So if I tested -1, I got a negative times a negative, which is positive. And then when I tested this one, which was in between 0 and 1, I got a positive times a negative, which was a negative. And when I tested this one, which was after the 1, then I got positive times a positive, which was a positive. Now, based on that, it goes plus, minus, plus. And so that meant it's increasing left of 0 and right of 1, and it's decreasing from 0 to 1. And we have a local max at x equals 0, since f prime is going from positive to negative, and a local min at x equal 1, since you're going from negative to positive. And then the same thing here. Here's your derivative. You find your critical points. You test your numbers. So this section is really all about testing numbers and then seeing that it's negative, positive, positive in this case. And so then you can make your little chart and go negative, positive, positive. And then that means from negative infinity to -2, it's decreasing. And from here to here, it's increasing. And from here to here, it's also increasing. And for the -2, increasing, or it wants you to use -2, infinity because it's continuous. So like what we saw in the other video, it like probably stopped at 0 and kept on going, but it is continuous. And so we want -2, infinity. And then you have a local max and min. You go from negative to positive at -2, and there's no local max. And so let's do that on yours, because you don't really have to do all this extra work yet, but you will get there. So on part C, what we would have done is we would have had a -3, we would have had a 0, and f prime is x times x plus 3. So in this, I would test -5 and test -1 and test 1. So if I test -5, that's going to be -5 times -5 plus 3. That's basically -5 times 2, which is -10. So this is a minus. And if I test -1, this would be -1 times -1 plus 3, which is -1 times 2, which is -2. It's still minus. And if I test 1, I get 1 times 1 plus 3, which is 3, which is positive. So that's a plus. Now, based on that, we're going from negative to positive at 0, going from negative to positive at x equals 0. And when we do that, that means it's a local minimum. So that's your local minimum. And here, it's negative 5 times negative 2, which is positive 10, not negative. And so this was really a plus right there. And so then you're going from positive to negative at x equal negative 3, which means it's a local max. And so that's why the local max is at negative 3 and the local min is at 0. Let's do that one more time. So for over here, if we have f prime is x minus 7 squared times x plus 8, we're going to put negative 8 here, we're going to put 7 here, and so we would test negative 10, 0, and 10. You can test anything in between, but that's just seems to be like easy numbers to work with. So if we test negative 10, this would be negative 10 minus 7 squared and negative 10 plus 8. On the next one, it'd be negative 7 squared and 8. And on this one, it'd be 10 minus 7 squared and 10 plus 8. So let's use the calculator for that. Negative 10 minus 7, and we want to square that, times negative 10 plus 8. Okay, that gives me negative 578, and that just means it's negative. And then we will do negative 7 squared times 8, and that's positive, not negative. Notice you have to have your parentheses in the right spot. So that's going to be positive 392. So that's your plus. And then if I do this same thing, and I just make this positive 10 here and here, then we get 162, which is also still positive. So we went from negative to positive at negative 8, and that means it's a, okay, let's see, negative to positive is a minimum, so that's your minimum. And the other part was positive, and so that means there's no maximum. So there's your no maximum, and it says determine the local minimum. Minima means more than one, but on ours we just have one. And so that's our answer. So again, if you want to do this advanced stuff, we will get to that in chapter 5 probably. I was going off the top of my head and probably did more work than necessary, but it did work, you know, other than this little negative 63 mistake. Okay, hope that clarifies it. Hope you have a good day. Bye.